publisher of BodyBuzz.com, producer, attorney. Tonight we have a great show, a really super show. And Jay's going to tell you about our first guest. I'm going to quickly tell you about our second guest, which is going to be Chris Champagne, a really funny and talented guy. But right now, I'm waiting to hear from our first guest, which is Scott Ballard. Go ahead, Jay. Take it over. It's all yours.
Scott and I have been friends for quite some time, our families as well. Scott is the CEO, and with his brothers, own and operate Ballard Brands, which has a number of businesses under its umbrella. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Scott, and talk to you about the businesses you have and the markets that you're in, the territories.
Sure.
And welcome, by the way, my boy.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Stephen. Obviously, Jay and I and our families especially. His uncle attended my dad's church where he was pastor for many years before my father was there and during. So, but anyway, my brothers Paul, Stephen, and I, born and raised in New Orleans. My parents used to own what I consider to be a staple of Louisiana in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, which Jay and others attended often, which was Tape City, USA. So if you wanted your 8-track or 4-track or LP, that's where our entrepreneurship started. My parents owned Tape City. And now we own PJ's Coffee, which especially folks in Louisiana are aware of. Phyllis Jordan started the concept in the early mid-70s on Maple Street near Tulane and Loyola. We were part of the concept since 95. We went to Tulane and loved it. And Paul and Tori opened a store in Covington, and Stephen and I followed shortly after in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, while we were up in North Carolina growing Smoothie Kings and had some other ventures. And then we bought the concept about 20 years ago, and then have grown it to 43 states and 3 countries. And we also own WOW American Eats, as well as Garces, which is the Iron Chef from Philadelphia and New York, where we have the only 5-star restaurant in Philly and 15 other restaurant concepts, all different concepts created by the Iron Chef, Jose Garces, which we bought about 7-8 years ago. And then we also own a hospitality logistics company. I always say when bad things happen, we kick in. So when there's storms or other things that are happening either with the government or state or FEMA, we go and do what we call lifestyle services: food, laundry, housekeeping, security. We have a team, and we've been doing that since Katrina. And so that's kind of our wheelhouse. And from New Orleans, moved to Covington in the early 80s when my parents divorced, and went to St. Paul's, and we were all raised here, and happy to have a family and folks from New Orleans, which Jay can appreciate with his background, that still are doing business in South Louisiana.
You know, with Scott, you know, there's not too many people that are franchisees that then become the franchisor. And that's a very unique story. And I hope you're keeping a memoir of things, because it needs to be published one day. But I'd like you to talk about your relationship with the Iron Chef, Jose Garces, because I actually attended an Iron Chef competition in New York for my birthday. My wife bought it for me, and I had the best time. But I'd like to talk about how you got involved with him, because you went from having, I don't want to say WOW Café is casual, but it's more of a relaxed dining, if you will, versus, you know, a 5-star Iron Chef, top shelf restaurant, and a fella that has won, you know, the coveted awards in his industry, and how you permeated that and advanced it as well. And lastly, why the heck aren't you in Philadelphia at the game?
I know that's what many people are asking.
Okay.
Well, and we feed them. So we feed the team, and through Garces Events, which is our catering company, which we do the Kimmel Center. We're the largest caterer in Philadelphia, and we are in the Wells Fargo Center, which is where they play basketball and hockey, and we provide the club level food. So I should be there. I'm not, because family stuff here, but
I was
But
giving you a little trouble. I know.
I know. But to tell you the story, years ago, probably 7, 8, 9 years ago, a good friend of mine from Philadelphia, who's a lawyer, and was on the foundation. He was the chairman of their foundation. He's a good friend of mine, and he had said to me that Jose was coming on some tough times with some real estate development and stuff he did in New York in the 08, 9, 10 time frame, and that it was affecting his restaurant side, which was very successful. And of course, his talents were in food, not necessarily like you, Jay, development. And so he was on the other side of that coin. So we got together, we talked, and what we really, was what we had with Chef Paul Prudhomme, which created our spices and sauces and stuff here in New Orleans, and we were starting to do with Chef Paul, was to develop concepts for different people, whether it be casinos or hotels or others. And we really liked that ideation side of the food side. And we were getting more and more into it because of some of our contacts nationally and even internationally. And Chef Paul died, as you know. And so we said, oh man, how do we restart that? And this kind of came in. We had an Iron Chef who won Beard Awards, who had 15 restaurants, 12 at the time, 5-star restaurants, and was working on a Michelin restaurant. And it just worked out. And that was the real motivation. The real motivation was that we find a chef that had the credibility to create. We wanted to go create, and we still do want to go create for people, whether it's, Caesars or the Four Seasons, and I use those as just things everybody knows. But when, all of them want restaurants that they can relate to. Sometimes you manage them, sometimes you own them, sometimes someone franchises it, like you did, Jay, with Ruth's Chris, and we did with PJ's and Smoothie King and other things. So that's why we did it, and it just it worked out. It was, he had some tough times coming and needed help, and he wanted restaurant people to be his partner and run his business, and we needed the chef expertise.
Everything I've read about him, similar to Chef Paul, who I loved and respected, and was a great, even though he wasn't from New Orleans originally,
right.
I felt like he was a New Orleanian. But everything I've read about Chef Garces is that he is the same type of man of character and integrity, and you've really hitched up with a really good partner there. He has done a lot for the communities, much like you and your family. And I think that's probably because of your parents. Your dad, Royce, is one of the finest men I've ever encountered. And I sent a picture to Scott the other day. I bumped into him at Mr. Ed's on a Sunday afternoon. He just was coming in from church. I was taking my family for a bite, and we had a table next to each other and just had the best time visiting for about an hour and a half. And that's the best part of New Orleans. You go anywhere and you're next to friends. But you were raised with that, Scott, and that kind of character. And that's what attracted you and Jose together. You all recognized that in one another.
We did. And Jose was, family man, 2 kids. His daughter actually attends Loyola here. I think I want to say that probably has a little bit to do with our relationship while she was growing in and he came to the city more. I see him spending a lot more time here. We created a new concept. He created about 9 years ago, and we have opened 5 since, and now we're franchising. It's called Buena Onda. It's a taqueria, fast casual, and we're very excited. It's in that same genre as the Baja Freshes and the Chipotles, but of course an Iron Chef created this one, so we think we have the special recipe. But we've already sold 10 franchises, and we're about to close on. We just closed on Dubai and Egypt with PJ's, and that same developer who is
Dubai and Egypt. Wow!
Yeah, and the same developer who owns many concepts that we know here in the West. A very a hospitality person, wealthy family up there. Loved the Buena Onda concept. They were looking for a taqueria. They were about to do something with a much bigger concept, and I think we're going to do that with them, because this is a group who owns many restaurants up there, and so we're excited. We didn't necessarily want to go to international that quick, but if you're with the right group, it works.
Absolutely. Congratulations. I mean, that's just surreal to me. To let everybody watching know, Scott and I go back. He was working at our Joseph Bank when we opened up our first franchise, and he was at Tulane University.
I worked with Peter, the best boss to this day,
who's still with us and works in our Metairie store.
That was the only job I ever had that I wasn't entrepreneurial. I've never gotten a W-2.
Well, we were fortunate to have you. And wasn't it your brother Steven that caught the touchdown pass in the Carrier Dome to win the game for Tulane against Syracuse?
And did the funky dance that kept him out of the Rose Bowl.
I heard, I was in the car, I was listening to it on the radio, and I remember it like it was yesterday because it was quite an upset. I think Syracuse was ranked in the top 10 or top 20 at the time.
They were seventh.
Seventh.
They were seventh, and if they would have won that, would have gone to a very good bowl. They think the Rose Bowl, but even if not that, a surely top 5 finish, and it was Deron Smith to Steve Ballard with 3 seconds left.
I remember it. It was good stuff.
How about them wave?
Our friend Steven here probably wasn't paying attention or wasn't even born yet. Listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely wasn't born yet. Absolutely. What year was that?
That was probably 92? 92?
Yeah, 91, 92, yeah. Just like yesterday, Stephen. It just doesn't seem like that long ago, does it, Scott?
No, it doesn't. It was I just celebrated my 50th birthday last week, and I don't feel any different. At least that's what my wife said. Do you feel different? I said, no different.
You don't look any different. You look the same to me as you did 30 years ago, pal.
Yeah, thank you.
And I've seen your kids on Facebook, and what a beautiful family you do have, and your wife, of course. She's got great looks and great genes. And
well, I grabbed her when I was 16, or she never would have made that mistake. You got to get them young before they're smart.
we out kicked our coverage. You know what I mean? Indeed. So Dubai and Egypt. What else is on the agenda for PJs and the concepts? Do you see taking Jose Garces' concepts abroad? Or are we staying on
except for the Buena Onda, abroad's not really where we're concentrating unless you have the right partners. We have the right partners with PJs in Kuwait, which is where we're there. We have the right partners in Vietnam, which we're there. And then I told you
Vietnam as well. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we've been there for about 6 years with PJs.
I had no idea.
Continuing to grow. So, we've got the right partners, but our big concentration is here in the States. And PJ's Coffee. So emerging brands is what we would call ourselves now. Of all the brands in the country,
right?
We're top 5 in growth the last 2 years. We'll open over 35 new PJ's locations this year, 2022. That's open. That's open the door, turn on the lights, new CEOs. That's unheard of for any brands. I don't care.
No, I'm with you.
Subway, Starbucks, it doesn't matter. I mean, that's a lot of stores, especially for a privately held company like ours.
Some of those corporate and some of those franchise?
Yeah, about 4 of them were corporate, and the rest are franchise. And, Texas is a big market for us, Florida, Georgia. So, of course, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, the closer. But, we're touching over 40 states now. And next year, we have another 40 plus in the pipeline, as long as we can get the equipment and we can have the real estate, and we already have everything in place. We just need the distribution is a problem, but we're on set now to do 45 new stores from today till next year. And that's already signed, sealed, and delivered. So we're very excited about that.
So Scott, let me intervene here and just ask you, the war hasn't had any impact then on your business?
Well, it's had a lot of impact on cost and and product. We went ahead with our partner, C&T Design, and we pre-ordered probably $7-8 million worth of equipment, put it in the warehouse about 18 months ago.
Wise, very wise.
And that had risk. And our partner, thank you for them for doing that, because we've been long-term partners with them. But we ran out. So that's awesome.
Oh, boy.
So if we wouldn't have done that, Stephen, no way in the world that we could have, if we didn't pre-order by 12 months. We pre-ordered because, our coffee shops are pretty much, a box. We know what we need. They're not custom in that you may need this, may need that. So the war has had a big effect on distribution, on cost. If you Google this, anybody listening yourselves, Google a map for the last 100 years of coffee and look at our price. Outside of 2008, it is literally a straight line. And it's the second largest commodity in the world to gasoline. You look at the last 2 years, it's this. So 100 years, almost a straight line, except for 1 year, 2008, which had a little bit of a bump. Now, coffee has doubled and tripled in cost. A lot of that, most of that is shipping.
If I was going to say shipping probably drives that.
One of the biggest problems we've had, Stephen, is also when you have contracts, whether it be with the Walmarts of the world or anything contractual, shipping is included. And technically you give a 12-month price, and that includes shipping. Well, shipping went up 300 or 400%. And a lot of companies were very slow in allowing us to do change orders. So we literally lost money on contracts. We were sending coffee for free because our contracts had the shipping overwhelmed our cost. We eventually, worked through most of that, but it was a tough year on the wholesale side of our business. Even though business was up because you sold more in the grocery, you sold more on pjscoffee.com, you sold, those type of things. You made far less margins to no margin because shipping was so large and you couldn't pass it on in many contracts. And even to our franchisees where we have to ship it, we had that balance of trying how high can a cup of coffee be? I don't think any different probably than you, Jay, with the steak place. And, so even if business was up, your margins were less. And a lot of times you made less money. And then labor down here in Louisiana is a little better than most places. I think mostly for us because we have legacy type workers.
That's what I want to ask about.
Our workers are their mother worked at a PJ's at some point, and they did, and so it's a staple here. So it's a good job. But in Philly, I'm only open 5 days a week still, most of my restaurants, because I don't have labor. I have the demand.
Wow.
I don't have the labor.
The staffing is still. I got to tell you, Scott. First of all, every PJ's I've ever been into, and my wife and girls will tell you the same thing. Everybody has a smile on their face. Everybody's very friendly.
Thank you.
Staffing is an issue for everybody that's in the service industry right now. And y'all seem to be doing very, very well. I want to know what's your secret. Everybody would like to know what your secret. I understand you just said I talked about Philadelphia, but in the Southeast, I've been to a couple other ones in Georgia, if you will, in North Carolina, and the same type of attitude, same kind of friendliness. How do you put the staffing together when everybody else is struggling?
Well, it's tough. And the further out, Louisiana, luckily we've been around for almost 50 years. So it's a legacy type thing. I truly think that's the case down here. So everybody knows that it's a good job. Working in a restaurant, as you know, Jay, is very difficult. A coffee shop is more friendly, is good tips, good wages, not as stressful. And so I think that's inviting. We can have younger workers, less skilled workers, we can teach, to be a barista. But it was still tough. I mean, COVID took its toll on a lot of people, but up north, we still have cities that just, I think that money that flowed in is slowing down. So that money was one thing. But the other thing was people changed careers. You were in the hospitality business. You became a real estate person. You became a mortgage person. You were in, and they tried that. Well, now we're starting to see that some people just didn't make it in the mortgage business, so they're coming back. Some people didn't like the real estate business, so they're coming back. But it took time. So in our business, as you know, hospitality workers, it has to be in your blood. You have to love it. It's not something you wake up and say, boy, I want to go be a bartender. I mean, you kind of are born a little kooky, it's in your blood. But some of them thought they could change because it was just time. It was an opportunity. But a lot of them realized, you know what? I'm a hospitality gal or guy. I don't want to sell mortgages. I don't want to be in real estate. I want to go back to what I know. But that took until now and probably another 6 months. So I think that's going to help our economy, that those people are coming back, and some of our economists aren't really working that into the numbers. But this inflation is going to hurt, and we're gonna see where the oil and gas, and because obviously oil and gas affects everything you make, whether it's your plates or delivering your food, or so we'll see. But we keep fighting. We really can't go up much more on price. So I do see distribution getting a little better. Still bad, but it's better, and I like to see those trends.
So we have a
Yes.
post here from a link from a user on LinkedIn. We're sending the signal to LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So it's actually live on those channels. And so here, if a LinkedIn user name is not identified, says, "Nice to get a taste of NOLA, 2-lane PJs." And another user said, "Been a while. We don't know who that is unless they come back and tell us."
And
Yeah,
Scott,
well,
one of the things Scott, very few people can say this. Scott's a 2-lane graduate who was on the LSU Board of Regents. How about that one?
Yeah.
I think
Which
I
is
will. Yeah, Stephen knows. I think I don't know this for sure, but I think it's possible. It's safe to say I probably will be the only 2-lane grad to be the chairman of LSU's board. But you never say never.
No, but it's very unique. And I got to tell you, I think I'm sitting here with you, Scott, and I see a future king of the Washington Mardi Gras Ball, if I don't miss my guess. Let me tell you.
I'm going to leave that up to the.
I'm telling you, he'd be a great
Heavies of the
one.
world.
You represent Louisiana well wherever you go and whatever you do, for sure.
I appreciate that
And
very
that's
much.
what they look for.
You know, I had no idea. I mean, I had no idea about your life story. I had no clue at all how you began, and what you're telling us is just incredible. What advice do you have, just say, for the average person who wants to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I tell you, I say this. I failed many times. I just succeeded more than I failed, and I'm blessed for that. And I do know that was, from my perspective. You know, I have a father and a mother who loved us first and foremost, put us first. I believe that God plays a big role in giving grace and allowing us to, to function, to fail when we need to fail and succeed when we do. So I'm thankful for that. You know, I have a great family, brothers and sisters. We're very close. I have a great wife and children. I have great friends like Jay and others who, at the end of the day, you can't be without them. And I know that sounds, like the textbook, but at the end of the day, I think most successful people or successful stories have to have a foundation, and that foundation has to have not only trust, but something bigger than them. And to me, that's family, God, friends, and a culture of Louisiana, which is what I always say you can't match. I've been to every state except Alaska. I've been to many countries. I've been blessed. There's nowhere like this city. There is with all of our faults, because all of it has faults, nowhere like this culture. And I think what I would say to people is, work doesn't have to suck. We've always said that, and go be happy. And first and foremost, and the rest should take care of itself. I know there are stories and outliers where people worked harder than anything and had bad luck. And I know a lot of good people who were on the wrong side of what I just said. And that's unfortunate. But I think for the most part, if you do it right and you're honest and you come from a good place, that doesn't mean you agree. That doesn't mean you don't argue. That doesn't mean your perspective, isn't challenged. It just means as long as you're coming from an honest place. And my brothers and I, approach that with work. We approach that with our employees. Most of our employees have been with us for over 20 years with us. Our executive staff and others, 15, 17, 20, 22 years. And we're just not, we don't fire well. And sometimes that's a good thing. Maybe it can be a bad, but in our case, it's good. So stick with what you know, be honest, and love what you're doing. If you're not doing what you love, that eventually will catch up with you, and you probably aren't doing your best, and therefore you won't be as successful as you can be. So I have never had a W-2 job. I have never. I worked for Jay and I bartended in college. But honestly, when we got out of school, we got an SBA loan and opened a Smoothie King and went from there. And Jay knows my parents by no means were wealthy. And when
they're great citizens and great parents. And I got to tell you, you boys are men of character and integrity. And the other thing I wanted to add, and you said it very well earlier, but the one thing I want to point out is you guys don't quit. And
No.
while you can get knocked down and you can get knocked sideways and you might not have a success here or there, you don't quit. You keep moving forward. And that's probably was instilled by your mom and dad, but that's part of being a success and a great entrepreneur that you are. And I'm sure you've instilled the same in your kids already, and you keep doing it. And it can be done in a very positive way, and everybody gets knocked down. Everybody. It's the way in which you deal with it and how you address it and how you move forward. You can't sit there and say, woe is me. I feel so bad for myself. I'm going to go ahead and, go into depression. I feel for people that do that, but that's just not the way you're going to succeed in life. And fortunately,
no, I wouldn't. Look, I truly believe that we have to be a society that gives, cares, and gives opportunity. At the same time, we've got to somehow balance in there that people who are willing and can need to give back to society. And at the end of the day, I truly hope all of us can give more than we take from this world, and we'll be a better world. The balance is, what does that mean? And how do we do that? And that's why that's why Stephen and you and me, and whether it be politics or this, that's why we're so passionate. We fight. It's not really the message. The message is important. It's that we're willing to fight and talk through and debate and get to a common ground that helps everyone. And I think ultimately, people who are as involved as we are, people get confused that we can not only be friends, but that's how the world changes, is that we all leave, look in the mirror and say, I was a little hard this time, whatever it is. And then you change perspective. If you're not changing your perspective, learning, and you're not going to, that's in work, that's in politics, that's in life, that's in marriage. And I believe that. And I believe, and the reason I'm so intense and passionate, sometimes too much, is because I want to make a difference, and I want my children to have it better than I did. That doesn't mean I say it right all the time. That doesn't mean I do it right all the time. That doesn't mean I'm on the right side of a message all the time, but it's an honest side of the message. I don't ever think I'll get somewhere where I can't defend it from my perspective. And that's where I hope we all get in business and everything else, because we're all one. We really are. So we'll see. But I'm optimistic.
Spot on.
So talk about spot on. We're going to step on some spots and bring in Chris Champagne. Why don't you stay with us, if you don't mind, Scott?
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Jay.
You so
I'll
much.
mute me and stay with you. Thank y'all.
Okay. Take care of yourself. Oh, by the way, the video did not show on your Facebook. I don't know. Maybe it did, but we'll take care of it.
Thanks.
Okay. Take care. And so now here is Chris Champagne.
Hello, you're going from success to failure.
Come on.
I own nothing but my shoes. How y'all doing? The show's been great, though. It's been great. Listen to you. Congratulations on your success. It's really a great story.
Thank you.
It really is. It really is. Let me just say this.
I'll take them off. So,
Chris, let me just do a little intro. Chris is an incredible talent. I mean, he really is. He's written some really interesting books. The thing I love about him more than anything else is that he's able to write these skits. And I guess you call them plays, or you call them whatever, shows, and they are so funny. We had him on Politics with a Punch a number of times. I mean, he just brought down the house. Really quick wit. And in fact, let me open this up by sharing this with everybody. So here we have, actually, let me put it up like this. So you have a show coming up, Chris.
yes.
Isn't that right?
November
BSPN, Total Recall. I do not embrace this. The Cantrell. Now, we don't do politics in the show,
Okay.
but tell us. motivated you to do this particular show?
Well, I've been doing shows for, well over 20 years now. I've had, I think, since Katrina, I've had at least one-man show each year since Katrina. And I do political satire in my shows. They're like 60 minutes long. And I've done shows about Jindal, about Mike Foster, a couple about Ray Nagin. So She's the Mayor now. I did some about Mitch. Well, not necessarily about Mitch, but some of the sketches were about Mitch. So, She's the Mayor now. So she's kind of in our news every day. And, she provides material by her everyday actions. I wish she would have a press conference every day. It would make my life easier. And you could almost make a documentary of some of the things that she says, I believe. But when I do these shows, they're an hour long. I usually have a musical guest. My musical guest is going to be the great Philip Melanson, so I'm really excited about that. And he's one of the best parody songwriters in town for sure. And most of this show is probably about the mayor, but it's just not only the mayor. I have some stuff about some of the Republicans as well, and so I try to spread it around, and about our new sheriff and things like that. So whatever the market will bear. And the show
So
has
Jay, he's got some pretty great raw material, huh?
Yeah. And anyway, the show's November 9th at 8 p.m. at Rock and Bowl.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I hope that somebody comes. Actually, I did the show. I did my last show. My last show was called A Certain Girl, What's Her Name, Can't Trail You. So she was my cover girl for that one as well. And we had a pretty good crowd at Rock and Bowl. In fact, it was one of the most successful shows that I had because we had to actually postpone the beginning of the show to keep bringing out more tables because people kept coming in. So that was
wow.
Beautiful. That was a good experience for me anyway.
So is it a one-nighter or what?
Yeah, it's just going to be one night, but hopefully I'll do it again, maybe next month. And the hardest part of doing what I do is getting people to come. So it's kind of it takes a lot of energy to get the word out since I don't have a big budget.
Are you still writing for Gridiron?
No, do they even have a Gridiron anymore? I mean,
with COVID, yeah. I don't know.
Well, when they resurrected it after Katrina, and they made it smaller. They went to Le Chadois, so it was a much smaller show, and I was in it then, and I was one of the only people really who was held over, I think, from the other shows. Those shows were a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know if Jay I'm sure Jay must have went to some of those shows. The
Absolutely.
Show. And I used to write a lot of this stuff from about 1998 until about till Katrina. And actually, that kind of got me my start. Actually, because I was always very shy, and I was scared to speak in front of people. And I would write stuff for the Gridiron show, and but I wouldn't do anything on stage. And then I wrote the character that I do, Numa, I Know Where You Got Them Shoes, Sexnight. I wrote a piece for Gridiron, and someone else did it. And then the director, Elliot Keener, at the time, asked me if I wanted to do it. So I did it, and it worked out really well. And I just kind of ran from there. And I started doing this stuff myself on stage. And now I do like a 60-minute show by myself. So it's kind of, I don't like to analyze it too much because I was always so shy, and I guess I still am in some ways. And I don't want to ruin the magic, okay, whatever I've been doing now. So it's worked out okay. In the old days, all you had to do was one of the Saints when I first started, and then they got good, so you couldn't do that in the books. People get mad at you. And now, if you make fun of Democrats, you make fun of Republicans, you have a divided room. So you got to be careful what you make fun of. But the one go-to thing that we have here is the sewage and water board. I did a couple of shows ago. I had a big sketch about the sewage and water board. And it was like I did the show over about a 5-month period. I did it about 8 times. And you have to constantly update it because it's like every day you look in the paper and there's something new about the sewage and water board. And I'm having a nervous breakdown trying to keep up with them. The Advocate should have a front part, metro section, sports, and leisure, and then they should have a Sewage and Water Board should have their own section. I think they're worthy of it because it's always something new, you know. And you know, one of my favorite things about the Sewage and Water Board was, you know, they have these.
Wait, hold on. You
Yes.
have a favorite thing about the Sewage and Water Board?
Yes, it's a joke though.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's
By the way, before you tell us a joke, Brett Emanuel says, "Hello, Chris."
Oh yeah, hey Brett, how are you? Yeah, nice man. His father Lenny is a wonderful poet and in this area, and he just had his 90th birthday. So
Wow.
happy birthday to Lenny. Yeah, yeah. Well,
Go ahead.
yeah, my favorite thing about the Sewage and Water, I have a couple of favorite ones, I guess, but the one that I really liked, I think, was that you have all these water boil advisories. And then, you know, you read the paper the next day and it tells you know why they had a water boil advisory. And it's like, it's kind of surreal. And, you know, kind of the reasons. Like one time it was because a metallic balloon, you know, hit a electric wire and it knocked out their electricity. So they couldn't, you know, they couldn't boil our water and purify our water. But I mean, you're talking about a balloon that you could buy for $1 at the dollar store. Okay. And it knocks out, you know, the power grid. I just said, I hope that Al Qaeda wasn't looking at this because they could just destroy America with, you know, $15. But the one that I really liked, about the water boil advisory was they said that our water was being purified, some of it by a 70-year-old boiler, and but in order for it to work, it was required. It had to be lit with a flame on the end of a piece of straw from a whisk broom. So that's when I decided that's why I knew why I lived in New Orleans, because, you know, we have roads, we can leave if we don't like it. But it's like, I want to live in the 21st century in a town where the only thing that stands between me and my loved ones in a cholera epidemic is a flame on the end of a piece of straw from a whisk broom. You know, so they kind of solidified it for me. And anyway, so that's one of my favorite ones, because I mean, you know, what are they going to tell you next? They're going to, you know, they could tell you anything. They could tell you that Drew Brees runs on coal. You know, he has a little flap when it's behind, and they open it up and they stoke him with coal. And then people say, "Well, that's impossible." I said, "Do you live here?" You know, nothing's impossible. You know, I was driving on the streets today, and it's like if you drive anywhere in New Orleans now, it's like driving in a crab trap. You know, no matter where you go, you can't go that way. You know, I mean, if you go on Google Earth and you look down and you trace the path that you have to drive your car any day, you step back, it spells Cantrell. So it's kind of an eerie thing as well. So there's a new, and of course the pothole situation we have. This is what I like about, you know, you don't really hear much about it anymore since it was announced, but like Mitch Landrieu is now the United States' infrastructure czar. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, I don't know, you know, what does that mean? I mean, there'll be like, you know, orange and white cones on the interstate. It'll be like a slalom, you know, and that's how they fix everything around here. That's how they're gonna change the NOPD uniforms to like a white and orange stripes, like it looked like a clown loach, like, you know, from Finding Nemo. But there's a new like I'm doing a routine here. It seems like there's a new profession in New Orleans. It's called Uber pilot. You know, you sit, you know, shotgun, and you tell the Uber driver where the potholes are so they can get from here to there. You know, so some retired river pilots might be able to do that as well. So, but I mean, we have, you know, this new sheriff that we have, you know, Ms. Hudson. She seems to be another star in the making. You know, I think she has the lowest approval rating of all the politicians in the world. She's only been in there for 6 months, I think. You know, so she's accomplished a lot. She's now less popular than Marlon Guzman. Okay, that's pretty hard. That's pretty hard to do in a short period of time. And
so is Numa still? I mean, he's got some shoes now, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah, Numa. Yeah, that's the character that I do on my show. Numa, I know where you got them shoes, Shaq Snyder. It's like it's about this far. The personality is about this much different than my own. So, but it gives me a little bit of a license. Although you're going to be careful, you know, no matter what you say,
going to be there
how do you defend somebody, you know? As
Is
hard
Numa going to be at? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is Numa going to be at your show?
Oh yeah. He'll be the whole show. Numa will be the whole show. I have a call coming in from NPR, and they'll call Numa. He'll explain LaToya to the NPR listeners as best he can. And then I have a feature also called "Wait, Don't Shoot Me." It's the New Orleans game show that tries to explain the unexplainable New Orleans, Louisiana government and culture. And it's questions about the things that are happening. That way I can kind of keep it up to date. I can put things that happen in that day's news if something happens. And one thing about New Orleans, like I'll read the Advocate maybe for 3 or 4 days in a row, and nothing really jumps out at me particularly. And you start to worry, but on that 5th day, something will happen. The Sewage and Water Board, the Lakeview will flood not after it rained because they put the pumps on backwards. And when it rained, it didn't flood, but after it stopped raining, they started pumping the lake into Lakeview. And of course, when they do that, they can't stop it immediately. They have to wait, 20 minutes so they can reverse the flow or something. I don't know. I mean, it's like anyway. So then I have a malfeasance slam with LaToya versus Susan Hudson, because the Nobel Prize is thinking about maybe. They don't always, just give awards to people who achieve things. They want to give, other people too. They want to be fair to everybody. So it'll be a malfeasance Nobel. So it's going to be one against the other, and we'll see who wins. And also I have the Six Flags or whatever the hell they call it now. I don't know. I mean, I have a proposal to call it Numa Land, and I have some special attractions and special rides. So that's kind of the show, kind of a brief description of the show. And again, it's 8 o'clock on November 9th, Rock and Bowl. And it's a really great venue. It's a big room. You can go to EO College Inn, a couple hours before the show and eat and saunter across the parking lot and have a big parking lot. And, that's one of the things about the city too. Now people are, they're kind of reticent to come into the city now. A lot of people, I hear from them, and it's kind of sad. I'm all over the city walking around all the time, and thankfully nothing's ever happened to me. But I can understand people's, reluctance to, I mean, we've in our lifetime, and Jay and Steve in our lifetime, and we've really become, media driven. I mean, it's like, in other words, whatever is, projected on our news and our front pages, and we kind of think that that's all that's happening, or we absorb, and that's not really all that's happening. That's just a narrative that's set, and it's really a shame that we have to live in times where we have to worry about these things, and it's
Chris, you're absolutely right. And real quick, for those people who don't know, Johnny Blanchard is a great innkeeper at Rock and Bowl and EO College Inn. That whole family does a fantastic job, and I can't think of a better venue for your show on November 9th.
Well,
I hope you have a great attendance. I think it's going to be spectacular, and you chose a great venue for it.
Yeah, well, thank you. I was lucky to get it. I mean, John and his family are fabulous, and they're another success story, like Steve is.
Exactly right. I was just going to say that. Exactly right.
Yes,
and I first met Johnny Blanchard. I went to church over at St. Anthony of Padua, and he was collecting the plates and the offerings, if you will. And we visited outside, and I met about 20 some odd years ago. Fine family, fine man. What I wanted to tell, what you said about our city, which is sad. When I served on the council about a decade and a half ago, we thought things were dire then. We had 1,500 people on the police force, and we didn't think that was enough. We were trying to get to 1,750. We still had potholes, but to see how far the city has fallen, and I know you're spoofing it, and quite frankly, the city provides these elected officials a lot of material for you, Chris, and you do a great job with it. But we have really fallen off a cliff in the last 15 years, so much so that we all get immune to it almost. Like nothing jumps off at the page. 5 carjackings here, shootings over there. And we're like, okay.
Yeah.
And that it's just sad.
It is. I mean, I'd hate to see the analytics of that, of so many shot. The one that I like is when they, 7 people are shot and they say, but there are no life-threatening injuries. Well, I'm happy about that, but I mean, still, you got 7 people got shot, and there's, who knows what the ramifications of that for the rest of their life, And
Exactly right.
It's just, well, it's just what it is, I guess. I mean, as far as the NOPD is concerned, they should just throw NOPD badges off a float, that way they could have 1,000 cops overnight, I mean,
Pretty funny too.
They have a goal, I think. That their goal, I believe, is by 2024, they want to have more New Orleans policemen than there are weathermen on Channel 6. I think that, so at least it's, you have to have goals, like I've had none. That's why all I own is my shoes. I don't have, so, and my shoes, I need some new ones, I think. So, yeah, I'm sure, you said no politics, right?
We can have a little.
No,
fun,
Okay. Well, no, I didn't want to break the rule, but that press conference or whatever you want to call it, news briefing that she had about France. That was like, what I mean? It's like, how can you top that? If you're a creative person. I was looking at it, I'm going to myself, what is this? I'm not talking about Luxembourg. No. I'm not talking about Belgium. We're talking about France. Just to be clear. And of course, everything with us at the end of the day. In other words, so whatever's going to happen is going to be at the end of the day. It's not going to be the beginning of the day. It's not going to be in the middle. Not going to be at the end of the night. It's at the end of the day. So whenever the sun starts going down, I start to worry. Something's going to happen. If it's going to happen, that's when it's going to happen at the end of the day. So, she's bouncing silos. She's getting a little rumbling. She's not. It's like when she gave Warren Riley the job and took it away from him, and then he sued her. It's like one of the things I said. She's going to court, and the judge is asking what happened. Well, a little bird told me something. I didn't hear any rumblings. There was no swelling from the community. So I hit the reset button. I was bouncing silos. So the judge said, well, okay, Mr. Riley, what do you want? I'll buy you St. John. Okay, you can have anything you want. She loses. It's like, she promised to turn New Orleans East into New Orleans East overnight. So she could probably do that, I think. And that's an easy one. She should actually, her next thing is going to be, she's going to try to get Russia to declare war on New Orleans East. And that way they'll pump billions, wasn't it, So that might work.
Let me change gears for a second, and I just put up an image, Secret New Orleans. That's your book, huh?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us about it.
Well, it's
one of how many books?
Well, 4.
4.
The other ones are Roach Opera, which is a book of poetry, the Yak Dictionary, and The Most Interesting League in the World, How the NFL Explains America. Those are the other 3. But this one, Secret New Orleans, is really a beautiful book. It's from Jean Les Editions, which is a publishing house in Versailles, France. And they have, beaucoup titles of Secret Rome, Secret Paris, Secret London, Secret Edinburgh, Secret Washington, D.C., Secret Montreal, Secret Los Angeles, Secret Brooklyn. And I was lucky enough to get the assignment to do Secret New Orleans. In fact, actually, the late Ronnie Burgess kind of got me the gig, and in a way, because they asked him to do it, and he didn't want to do it, so he recommended me, and I did it. In fact, I'm in the middle of doing Secret Louisiana right now, which is the first state in the union that the journalism.
But that's a secret, though. Nobody knows about that.
Secret, yeah. And but this book really, this book's in all the bookstores in town, and the way that they put the books together, they have a plan, and it's really a beautiful book. Physically as well. And it's a good book. I've gotten a lot of extremely positive feedback from Secret New Orleans. So thank you for
that artwork on the front. Who is that? Who did that?
That's Ricky Alvarez.
That's what I thought. So I just finished up a tenure as president of City Park.
Okay,
and, a lot of Alvarez's work is there, and that's who I thought it was. Incredible talent. That, in New Orleans, for most people who don't know that.
Mr. Alvarez, his work is all over the city, and he was such an important person. I really wish that he'd get a lot more publicity than he does. I know they have a little spot in the garden now for him.
Yes.
But he's just an incredible. I mean, the things he's done that he did.
They had a fundraiser. His daughter came out and donated an original piece of art on behalf of City Park
Wow.
months ago that my brother and I were the auctioneers for. And she's still in the community and is a lovely lady. And his talents were, I don't think they were heralded properly when he was alive. And I'm glad the family's getting the recognition finally now.
Right, I agree with that. I don't think he got nearly as enough recognition as he should have gotten. I think even now, really, but he's gotten a lot more recently. Thanks to things like you just said. So, but he really is one of the most important people in the city because his stuff is every place. I mean, it's like there's a couple of things in the book by him. There's one like on there's the Marine statue, the female Marine statue on Canal Street between the Joy and the Lowe's. And it's situated now. The color of it, being green and all, it's underneath that big oak tree, so you really don't even see it unless you look for it. But a lot of people don't know the story behind that. He did that, during World War II, and the Marines adopted that statue, and they have replicas of that statue at their camps, their boot camps, and every female graduating class of boot camp, they gather at that statue, the replica of that statue, and they choose the top person in their class. So it's really a part of Marine lore that he created. So he did lots and lots of different things that I think people are not even aware of.
The fountain out on the lakefront in front of the airport. Was beautiful.
Yeah, I think he had to sit out there with a gun overnight because people were threatening to deface it.
Correct.
And that's kind of an unknown thing too, because not that many people really go out there. That they go to other places. It's kind of out of the way, and so I've been running around Louisiana the last couple of months looking for some secret things, and hopefully the Secret Louisiana book will be out. Hopefully, maybe next summer. I hope. And but before that, on November 9th, 8 p.m., I'll be at Rock and Roll with BSPN Total Recall. And
so listen, tell us about the Yacht book.
Well, that's another one. I got a friend of mine was sitting with Bill Lavender, who is a local publisher of Lavender Inc. Does a lot of books, and suggested that Bill should do a yacht dictionary. So he said, well, okay, you want to do it? He said, well, no, I'm from New Jersey. You should ask Chris or this other person. So I got an email the next day, and they asked me if I wanted to do it, and I did it, and I said yes, I should say, and then I had an idea to do it, and it's kind of like a humorous, look at yacht, and it was very, very popular when it came out, and we did a second version. I added some things I left out of the first one. And I'm really hoping to do one more to put about 35 or 40 more things in it that I didn't put in there to make it a more definitive book. And I was a little.
So what is a yacht? How do you
yachts are a dying breed now. Yachts are a dying breed. Which is sad. I had to explain them to my children. What's a yacht? I said, where you at? We also had one called a snoo, which was what's new, and from different parts of the city, if you will.
Sure.
But now it's all an amalgamation, and we really don't have those distinctive cultures that we used to enjoy in New Orleans.
No, well, that's all over America. I'm sure it's the same. We're more a homogenized society because of television and things like that, I think.
Right.
So what's a yacht?
Well, a yacht is basically it's a white working class kind of patois, I guess you'd call it. It's kind of like New York. It sounds like New York, and because the same ethnic groups came in the same waves. Because New Orleans and New York were big cities long before a lot of the cities in the United States were, and they were both port cities. So the Irish and Germans came in the 1840s in great waves. The Italians came in the 1890s in great waves to both cities. And I think that's why that we have the similar accents. And of course, New Orleans was not really part of the South in a way, because it didn't look inward to the South. It looked kind of out to the sea because it was a port in its early years. So it was kind of isolated from the rest of the South. So the way that we speak was somewhat different, and that's my theory. Or my theory is that New York stole our accent. That's
Not only accent, but diction too. Like how you be.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, it's just lots of different things. And that I was really kind of trepidatious at first to do it because people get kind of like proprietary about the way that they speak in their language, and I didn't want to make any mistakes, and get people all riled up. I didn't want to be arguing about these points at parties the rest of my life. But knock on wood, it actually worked out pretty well. And I've gotten a lot of compliments about the Yak book too. That those were it did a lot of good
I would
stuff.
imagine double knit and polyester along with change was part of the outfit that they used to wear back in the 70s, early 80s, correct?
Say again? Polyester
I was thinking double knit and polyester for clothing, along with maybe some chains and shirts that were open 3 buttons deep on their chest.
Yeah, that was probably the late 70s,
Right.
early 70s, maybe even middle 70s. Yeah, I remember
And
that.
they congregated in that city.
Yeah. I remember, the frat city cats. I don't know how old you are, but that was back in the late 60s. That was another fashion thing. It's interesting. I got a call about, I guess about 2 months ago from a guy who's an actor in Hollywood, and he said he was looking for somebody named Chris Champagne because he was going to be doing a film in New Orleans soon, and somebody told him about Yat, and he wanted to see if he could try to be in character and do it. So I spoke to him on the phone about how that it's kind of a joke around here that they never get the accent right when they do a New Orleans film,
Right.
and so he sent me the script, and I recorded his lines for him, and I sent them back in Yat. So I translated them for him. So I'm gonna be definitely gonna start filming in February. So I really want to see how he does. I would be fascinated if he really got it.
So actually,
I got to tell you, I look forward to how you're credited in the film. Chris Champagne, Yat advisor.
Yeah. I might ask him that actually. Now that you mentioned, I thought of that. Yeah. So I'm hoping that they do that, but we'll see.
So we have about 2 more minutes. Yats lived in certain areas of the area of the city, right?
Well, the Irish Channel, I guess. Chalmette maybe. I guess is kind of like that too. I mean, they're all a little different. It's not like the Pygmalion, but I mean, I'm not like a linguist, so I don't know, the little different things. I mean, but over the years, if you live here, you'll run into certain people who speak certain ways. Some people say New Orleans, some people say New Orleans, some people say New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans. Well, that's kind of I don't know about that one. Okay, but I don't know if that's really if that's a organic one or not, though.
Right.
I mean, it's like, people don't really say New Orleans. I don't think they do, but anyway, I'm not an expert. I just wrote the book. Okay. And it was fun writing that book, actually. It was a lot of fun. And
what's been a lot of fun is listening to you. And
I appreciate it.
Seriously. So how can people get your books?
Well, the books are on Amazon. Well, the Secret New Orleans book is probably on the shelf of every bookstore in the city, because I check when I go into stores, because Mr. Jean-Les kind of asks me about it. He asked me to make sure that the books are on the shelves, so I feel kind of obligated to look, and they are, So the other book, the Yat Dictionary, you probably have to go on Amazon to get it. Sometimes I'll have them in my car, and my other one, how the NFL, the most interesting league in the world, how the NFL explains America. You can get that on Amazon, and I have some of those, and I'll have some on my show for sale as well. And
so we have Stephen Foster, the photographer, who said that posted Lindy Boggs said New Orleans.
New Orleans. Yeah.
I'll be doing.
I think I see like Mitch and Lindy, and I think even Cantrell says New Orleans. I think that's how Mitch says it too, New Orleans. I think. I don't know. But it's you notice it when you're looking at them on TV, but I don't really. I don't make a study of it. But yeah. And
well, Chris, listen, it's really been a lot of fun, and it's been great. I think your show's going to be a real hit, as they all are, and so your shows, your books. You're just you're the head Yat. You're where yet.
Well, I don't know if I'm the head yet, but I'm glad to be in the number of them, in the number of people like that. Ronnie and I, Burgess, we were on the radio for about 7.5 years, and
Right.
and that was a great thrill to be with Ronnie, and he was such a great guy, and he was so smart. So I would do the wait, don't shoot me, segment with him. I'd make up these crazy questions about the news. He would never know what they are, but he always had an insightful answer about them. He was just a smart dude. And
Well, actually, we're going to close the show by a story I'm going to tell real quick, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And that is that one of my first jobs was the sports department of the Times-Picayune, and one of the people that was great interview, Sydney Thornton. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you, Sydney.
So, one of the people who actually worked with me in the sports department was Tom Fitzmaurice.
Okay.
Another person who worked there before I did was Ronnie Burgess, and because he was such a yat in terms of his speech. I thought, quite frankly, I thought he was stupid. I thought he was stupid.
Yeah.
Boy, was I surprised I was surprised when he went back to school to UNO and he was taking English. And then I think he started teaching English, and then he started doing the radio shows or the TV shows. He's a real New Orleans genius.
He used to love to read. I used to see him. He didn't know. I used to see him walking out of the library with a stack of books all the time. Really, late in his life as well. He just was a really smart guy and
really smart guy.
A wonderful heart.
Well, Jay, listen, thank you so much. I really appreciate your.
Thank you, Chris.
And the people who are watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We have some other interviews coming, some other comments real quick. We just did that one. Great interview. Thank you so much. Guys, listen, we're going to do this not next week. Next week is election. And Jay, am I correct? You have some news to tell us?
Well,
we're going to say goodbye.
Thank you. I've been recruited by WDSU to be their in-house analyst, prognosticator, if you will, for the election night, starting at 4 o'clock, the 4 o'clock broadcast, and then we'll cut in 15 minutes on the hour with the national broadcast.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah, that'd be great.
That's
great.
great.
Done that before?
Never done it before, but hopefully I'll be as entertaining as you are, Chris,
Well,
and I'll be able to continue.
Well, you're very
welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to get John Bell Edwards to make me the court jester of Louisiana, but I don't know if I'll succeed. And the good news about the election this Tuesday is you can't vote for Latoya Cantrell no matter how you try. She's not on the ballot.
Very true.
Okay. Guys, stay around for a second. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody else.
Yeah, please come to the show. Tell all your friends to come to